Hello, dear friends. It's Carly, and welcome to another episode of the I Learned podcast. I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad I'm here. Today has been a really good day. Yesterday was a rest day. I talk a lot about rest on this podcast because I mean it. I mean it that rest is important, it is powerful. And yesterday, that's pretty much all I did. A few times I had a tiny baby thought about, make an episode or write this or look at this thing. And I tried to, employ my emotional guidance system and decide, is this hell yes energy that I can't not take action on? Or is it little remnants of who I used to be trying to have their way with me. And as I felt my way through each one of them, I decided as I lay horizontally on my bed for most of the day that, yeah, that's not hell yes energy. I'm pretty sure if that was hell yes energy, I wouldn't even be doing this thought process right now. I would just be doing the thing. So the fact that I even have a chance to stop and think about it probably means it's not hell yes energy. So that was where I was yesterday, was resting, which is amazing because, I had a long day on Friday. The 5 hours of driving, the 5 hours of being at my consulting thing. And then Saturday, I showed up to work for like 2 hours and then I went home. I allowed the others who were there to cover for me. So Sunday morning, when I was journaling, I was all up in the gratitude for my staffing at the grocery store that allows me to follow my energy and follow whatever my energy is asking for from me. I need to honor that. And on Saturday, that's my day. That's like, I only have 16 hours, 16, 1 6, 16 hours a week that I'm responsible for at Cecil K's. And Saturday is 10 of the 16 hours. And that's my pay, that's my responsibility. And I just shucked it. I punted it onto whoever else was there. And they were fine to cover, and they called me a couple of times and I answered their questions and they did great. So that felt amazing to allow myself to recover and rest instead of forcing myself to go and take advantage of what used to be my biggest opportunity to make money in the week. Those hours at the grocery store on the weekend, those were how basically over the course of a whole month, several weekends, I would make almost enough to pay my mortgage payment. And so, I needed to do that so I could at least pay my mortgage payment. The rest, I have a little bit of savings, so I'm comfortable, but I need to be making enough income to pay my mortgage to feel extra comfortable. So I was pretty diligent about working my hours at the store for, the last several years. I really showed up to that. And I've realized these last several months, and particularly this past weekend, that I am ready to be totally free. I am ready to allow somebody else to show up and make sure that the day to day at the grocery store is taken care of. That I'm ready to create whatever else I'm ready to create. And that is that's a really exciting thought because at where I'm at right now is, a little over 4 years, like 4 years and a few months into this Cecil K's grocery store creation process. And where it's at right now is basically fully created. All we're really doing at this point is managing it, which is very different from creating it. And I am having like an identity clarification that says I on a whole deeper level. I was able to say this day one of agreeing to Cecil K is that I am a creator, I'm not a manager. Um, I'll happily open the grocery store and I'll manage it as long as I have to, maybe like a year ish. And then we'll give it to somebody else to manage and I'll move on and create the next thing. Well, I managed it for 2.5 years and now it has a new manager for, he'll have his like official anniversary, his official year end anniversary here in a couple months. So it is under new management. And one of the pieces of what I've learned and what I've been reflecting on lately is about releasing attachment and that, and I think I might have even mentioned this at one point, that promoting him to be the manager of the store is one thing. That's an on paper transition that is very easy to execute. But releasing my own personal energetic hold on worrying about the store and worrying about, is it going to be fully staffed, and are the orders going to get placed, and are the special orders going to get filled, and me worrying about all of that is to hang on to what I already gave him on paper. There's giving it to him on paper, and then there's me living up to it and me allowing him to worry about it and come to me when he has issues. So that has been going through my mind a lot lately because there are additional goals that I would like to see come to fruition, but it's going to require me to energetically let go on an even deeper level. And so that is something that I'm really excited to see how these next several months unfold and what I can align, because basically I'm deciding at this point, I'm having a reevaluation of what my goals are and what's important to me and what is a non-negotiable priority versus something that is flexible and I can adapt. Um, for example, making money. Making money is something that I absolutely used to be a lot more focused on. It used to exist towards the top of my priority list. It was one of the very first questions I asked was, what is the return on this investment, whether it be my money or my time? And now it's an afterthought. It's a, am I floating myself? Am I making enough to cover my expenses? Because if so, I mean, my expenses, my monthly expenses with my mortgage and my utilities, plus food, which technically I have a grocery store, so that's easier than it is for the average person. But even if you added that on there, I mean, we're talking like 20 grand a year to survive, to just maintain where you are right now. And $20,000 a year, that's a part-time job. That's barely part-time hours. And that is really a mindset shift that I went through last summer, where that's absolutely what I wanted. I wanted to be tied to Cecil K's, to my grocery store, a lot less. I wanted the freedom that came from having more and more days off. And what the very first, obstacle that I faced in all of that was realizing that there's a big difference between giving yourself the day off, AKA don't go to the store, and give yourself the day off in your mind. Because you can sit at home and think and worry about all of the things that are happening at the store, or are they happening at the store? They need to. So maybe I should just call and make sure. Um, when you're micromanaging from home, giving yourself the day off, that didn't really accomplish the full benefit of what it's possible to accomplish when you can really energetically let go of something. And this, I feel like, is one of those like common themes overarching my whole life, is learning how to find the perfect balance between what to hang on to and what to hold lightly and what to just let completely go of. And it is such a balancing act that as I go and as I evolve, my priorities change and they shift, and I transform into the next version and the next version and the next version, all the while I think, getting better and healthier and more whole. Um, and I do foresee, especially in this upcoming year, I foresee a gigantic restructuring in just the overall landscape of my life on a lot of different fronts. And I say that because today I had my very first solar return natal chart reading, and it was incredible. I'm going to put the dude's contact information in the description of this episode. If you have any interest in having a solar return reading done, I cannot recommend him enough. I am not even going to begin to try to emulate what he does because the thoroughness and the price that he charges, he's got it hands down. Best value, best price you're going to find. I can't do it as cheap as what he's going to do it. So highly recommend. And a solar return is your birthday. It's the day that the sun comes back to where it was when you were born, which technically speaking, like if you really want to get into astrology, which that's not the podcast that this is, but your solar return, the sun coming back to the exact spot it was when you were born, can actually be the day before your birthday, on your birthday, or the day after your birthday, just because of how things work. So just to throw that out there, I had my solar return reading today. It was scheduled for 2 hours. It lasted for over three. It was like 3 hours and 15 minutes of him telling me things and me telling him stories about how much that resonates, and him telling me more things and me telling him more stories. And it was so delicious. At one point, he was like, "Are you good to continue?" I'm like, "Yes, as soon as I get a pee break, I will be golden to continue." So yeah, I had a potty break there at about 2 hours, and we continued for another hour and 15 minutes. It was so delicious. Like, talk about all of the different ways that abundance can come to you. I mean, that is something where I knew how much I was going to spend on this reading. I think, gosh, don't quote me on his price. I think 95 is for the second year. And the first year, he does a more in depth, like on your whole chart before he reads your solar return. So it's more, it's like $140 or something like that. So I knew what I was going to pay up front. And then it's just a matter of how much value am I going to receive for this money that I've already agreed to pay. And I pre-paved this reading from him several times because I signed up for it like back in April, I'm going to say, maybe even March. And from there, he was supposed to do it like right at my birthday, but his stepdaughter had her baby. And so he went out of town for several weeks. They ended up staying longer than planned and got back, and we scheduled my reading for today. And so this is almost a month after my birthday, but like I told him, it feels very much like divine timing coming to fruition because I kind of lost my train of thought, but I know I'm going to get it back. Because my life is totally different today than it was 30 days ago. So I have no doubt in my mind that he was supposed to give me his reading today, which one of the main things that came out of it was around my mom and looking at what I have in my solar return chart in my fourth house, which is ruled by the moon, which also rules the divine feminine, the mother. It can point to clarification about your relationship with your mom and even your ability to mother yourself and for your ability to mother other people. So that was probably one of the most aligned pieces just because that piece had not come to the surface at all until this past like week and a half. And that's really cool to me that the reading itself got pushed and got pushed. And then for several weeks, I just didn't hear from him. And then he pops back up and we're going to schedule it. And for like the 8 days leading up to that reading, I have the angry dream multiple times. And I have the clarification process that this is around my mom and around my mother wound. And so I'm able to ask him specifically about these things. And he's able to point me towards how to look at the chart to interpret what's going on in my solar return chart this year. And it was just all so delicious and so like perfectly timed that I have no doubt that the timing of that reading coming together, coming to fruition was exactly as it was supposed to be. Again, if you next time you have a birthday, I told him today, I can tell you I'm scheduling for next year. We are putting me on the calendar for next year because holy shit, he gave me so many overarching themes of things that are likely to play out this year. And then with me sharing where I am in my life and what I'm facing and kind of what's processing under the surface already, and contribute that to what he's seeing in the chart for forecasting for this upcoming year. It was such a powerful combination and alchemization of this conversation that gave me a depth of clarity that I have been seeking, that I have just assumed at some point when I'm ready to process it, it's going to come to me. I don't need to work really hard for it. I don't need to try. I just need to relax and chill out and let it come. And so this last month, while this reading was getting delayed, I didn't try to force the issue of I need to know what it says in my solar return chart. I just rested. I just relaxed. I just focused on the things that were coming up. I got stuff done that needed to get done. I got a couple tasks done today. One of them had been pending for about 4 weeks. The other one had been pending for 8 months. I had been kicking the can down the road for 8 months because, quote unquote, I didn't feel like doing it, which was just like delightful today to realize that when I did it, it literally took me, I'm going to say 3 minutes. And I straight up refused to do the task for 8 months because I didn't feel like spending 3 minutes that way. And is that's a point of pride for me. I'm gonna just own my authenticity and I'm gonna say I'm really proud of how I am very deliberate in choosing how I want to feel. I want to feel good. I want to feel interested in my life. I want to feel relaxed. I want to feel in the flow. I want to answer my energy as it comes up. And as I go, if I don't feel like doing something, like, taking 3 minutes to do this task that somebody else asked me to do 8 months ago and has since asked me at least once a month, if not twice a month, um, not even over email, over like an actual Zoom call, I have said, I haven't had the chance. I haven't had the chance to do that. And it took me 3 minutes. So obviously that was a lie. I told that lie. I haven't had the chance. That's technically not true because technically I have 3 minutes free in my day, basically every day. And so what is true? I did have the chance, but I didn't feel like doing that. No, I don't feel like doing that yet. Is that what I'm supposed to say? Because that could be so funny. Like in the meeting, in the professional meeting, the project meeting of all the stakeholders and whatever, and like we're going through the outstanding items list, and everybody in the meeting has things that are outstanding, and we get to this one thing that has been pending for me, and have you done it yet? No, I haven't, because I haven't felt like doing it yet. So next, I think that would be fantastic. I think that would be just the ultimate moment of it's not the right time. It's not the right time to do that yet. And that's actually bringing up a fun story that I had to choose between this person that I was technically paying to be my professional consultant and offer me their expertise. And then I also had my gut. I don't feel like it yet. It's not the right time yet. The energy's not aligned. I have a sense for that. and I don't act until the energy is aligned. And in that case, it was I had my financial advisor help me cash out my 401k from the software company I worked at. And to do that, they basically sent me a check in the mail that was issued to me and to the financial institution that I was going to roll that money into an IRA out of my 401k that I had before. And I got that check about 2 weeks into January. And it was about the end of May when I actually took it to the financial institution to deposit it into my new account. And that whole time, I'm getting emails from that guy's office saying, hey, did you get your check? We just want to make sure it's not lost in the mail. Then I started getting the emails from the company that had issued the check saying, hey, it's been a long time. You haven't cashed this yet. You have another 90 days and then we're canceling this check. And so everybody was like, why aren't you depositing this check? You need to deposit this check. And meanwhile, the whole time I'm like, no, it's not the right time. I went down, like the place where I needed to take the check was an hour round trip of driving, but I went there multiple times in that span of several months. It's not like I wasn't physically close and able to drop off the check, but it didn't feel like the right time. It's not. I don't feel like doing it. So I didn't until the end of May. And I deposited that check, and already the account has grown significantly. So I'm not saying that it wouldn't have grown had I taken the check like right off the bat, but so far it's working out very well for me that I deposited the check when I did, that I followed my intuition. And basically that's where I'm at. That's where I'm practicing, is trying to follow my own emotional guidance no matter what it's telling me. And that lesson is working itself out around my mother wound, which I talked about, I believe, in the last episode, one of the last couple, anyways. It's working itself out around my mother wound because I talked about my angry dream, these angry emotions that feel so current that my subconscious has shown me in a dream state 3 nights in the last 8 nights now. So that's repetitive. That's meaningful. And I want to pay attention to that. However, it's bumping up against how much I've practiced feeling good. I want to feel good. That is a very dominant intention that I have practiced. I have practiced choosing thoughts and letting go of other thoughts such that I am focusing myself into feeling as good as I can possibly feel. That's a moving target. It's a range from any given point. Um, but it's possible to always reach for how good I can feel. And oh, I lost my train of thought again, but it's coming back. So, around my mother wound, right now, these dreams are coming up, and my intuition is pointing me towards my mother wound, which, let me be the first to tell you, does not feel fun. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel easy. It doesn't feel like any of these things. And that is actually the point I came on here to make, which is it is okay to utilize the mechanism. It is okay to utilize the mechanism of denial. And that is very much where I have been for years, even longer than 5 years ago, my spiritual awakening. I found out something about my mom in 2011, the summer of 2011. And we didn't talk for several months after that because I was very just disgusted, I think is the word. When I knew what I knew, when I had learned the new information, plus what I already had worked on accepting from my childhood, the combination of those two created an emotional explosion that I couldn't even look at her. I couldn't forgive her for several months. And then it wasn't so much a process of resolving and integrating all of that. It was more, let's both be happy. Let's both get along. And I've been existing there for the last several years. And I mean, we're talking 2012 to now. So that's like 9 years that I've been living there with this understanding that it's a fucking can of worms, no doubt about it. But I got the lid back on. And then over the years, I've like wrapped layer and layer and layer of duct tape around the thing. So the lid is staying on. And that has been a win for a really long time. It hasn't been a source of new pain to me, the fact that I've kept these worms contained. And that has been successful for several years. And now it's coming up, it's rising to the surface. And this is where I have to quote my life coach, Melissa, where I told her all of this story. And one of my favorite things that she reflected back to me was, this is coming up right now because you have the tools, you are equipped to handle it. And that really struck me because I think so often, I know I look at a challenge that comes up, and obviously, like, our knee jerk reaction is to respond as the person that we were last time we faced a challenge like that. And it's been a really long time since I've felt the emotions that were present in that angry dream. A really, really long time since I have felt something that strong and overwhelming. And yet here I am having that dream, having those emotions, those strong, overwhelming emotions come up because, as Melissa said, I have the tools and I'm equipped to be able to deal with this. And that is a really peaceful thought, even before I do the work. And I haven't even started to do the work to figure out, okay, wait, what tools do I have and how are those going to help me? I haven't even started down that rabbit hole. I really resonated, and I believed her that I do believe that. I believe perfect place, perfect time all the time, divine timing unfolding. Like, it's always the perfect place at the perfect time. So if I'm facing a challenge, I believe from a spiritual, esoteric level that I am ready to face this moment. That's why I'm living it. So have I made more progress on my mother wound and healing, the anger, the rage, the bottomless pit of rage that I feel that apparently is because of my mom? Have I made progress on that? No, still no. But am I working on it? Also no. Also very much not, because it's not like that, right? We take what comes, we allow it to unfold. So I have been doing what I always do. I focus myself into gratitude. I focus myself into appreciation, the things that feel good. And when you focus on them, it's easy to feel good. That's what I've been thinking about. Right now, for me, that's my grocery training project. I have all kinds of appreciation when it comes to that unfolding. So I don't really dig and pick at my mom. I allow that to be there as a storyline existing in the background, but I'm not prying it open. I'm not trying to force it to unfold faster than it's ready. I do my part by focusing myself into positivity every chance I can. At least every morning, sometimes multiple times a day, I come back to deliberately tune myself back into gratitude and being happy with the way my life is unfolding. Because sometimes that means that denial of a subject has run its course for the time being, and it's time to do the work to accept and forgive yourself and others and integrate. It's time to do that work. That work calls us when we're ready. And for a long time, I mean, 9 years, I practiced. Especially once I found Abraham and I learned you tell the story the way you want it to be. I practiced telling the story of, I'm so grateful for my mom. I'm so grateful for the upbringing that I had that made me who I am today. And I've gotten so good at telling that story and believing it and meaning it that I really am grateful for all of those pieces. And again, Melissa hit it on the head. She's like, but little girl Carly, she might have understood why she wasn't getting more attention because she has all these brothers and mom is only one person. And she might have understood all of that. But little girl Carly still feels the way she feels. Doesn't change that, doesn't change that she still feels unsupported. And there is a grieving process, like I mentioned in the last episode, or the mother wound episode, that grieving the mother that you didn't have. And again, that's where Melissa, she's ridiculously amazing. Um, she brought it back to early on, back when we were exploring my chart, we had a conversation about my Cancer energy and how that related to mother and mothering and our ability to mother ourselves. And that is probably this is the piece that has helped me to make peace with my mom so far, and I'm excited to see what new peace I'll make with her as I continue to explore. But this piece where if she had been an unconditionally loving and supportive and, just without flaw kind of mother, I would have always had my needs met and I never would have learned to meet those needs myself. And that is where I have to look at the bigger picture of my upbringing and see that her absence, it created an environment where I started working on tools to sustain myself emotionally. I started working on those very early on because I didn't have a choice. And if she had been more nurturing, I would not have been inspired to take the path that I took, where after after lots of flailing about and emotional tantrums, I eventually gave up on her as a source of emotional nurturing, and I learned how to find that in the world. And obviously, I started with the most unhealthy forms of filling that gap, which, sex, casual sex, relationships that you really shouldn't be in, but they're your source for emotional nurturing, so you can't really walk away. There were lots of places that I looked for that before I came around to the realization that the only satisfying place I'm ever going to find emotional nurturing is inside myself. So when Melissa and I touched base early on in our working together about the inner mother and being able to mother yourself, being able to self soothe and offer yourself the emotional space to feel whatever you're feeling. There's no wrong emotion when you're mothering yourself. Take the compassion that is often so natural to give to other people and give it to yourself. And only when we're really able to offer compassion to ourselves are we really able to offer it to other people without expectation, with zero strings attached. That starts between us, between me and me. Is my compassion is an inside job. And it starts with me being able to offer it to myself. So this has been a really, really fast 33 minutes and 33 seconds. I gotta love that I looked down just in time to see that. Um, I've rambled a lot, and I'm excited to go back and see what all was included and what all might continue to give me clarity on where I am in my life and this powerful time of transformation and healing and release that I'm currently floating in. I love this practice that I've built. I love this outlet of getting to talk to you guys and being able to hear my own truth, sometimes for the first time out loud as I listen back to these episodes. Just really, really grateful. I'm very much eager and looking forward to the clarity and the resolution that is coming on several fronts. But I'm also just really, really grateful for exactly where I stand today. So thank you for sharing this space with me. I couldn't appreciate it more. So until next time, dear beautiful friends, you take good care, and so will I.